The following program is brought to you by TrueTheVote2020.org.
If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government, or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
This is a time for choosing. Do we choose to protect the land of the free and the home of the brave, or do we choose to hand over our freedoms, our voice, and our vote to those who despise our country and our way of life? And their goal is clear: break us down, erase our history, destroy our religious freedom, spread hate for our country from within our country, take over our businesses, our communities, our lives. Hi, I'm Catherine Engelbrecht, founder and president of True the Vote, the country's largest voters' rights organization. Our mission at True the Vote is to ensure that every American voter has an opportunity to participate in elections that are free and fair. Now, like many of you, there was a time when I didn't know the inner workings of the election process, but that changed for me in 2009 when I signed up to be a volunteer election worker. But what I saw happening in the polls led me to ask more questions, and little by little, I discovered troubling inconsistencies. So with the small group of friends I gathered up, we began to work to uncover systemic corruption. Well, when this was shared with the public, it ignited a nationwide movement, a movement to demand election integrity and to protect every legal vote, including yours. Ever since then, True the Vote has continued to expose fraud, manipulation, and corruption in key precincts and counties and states across the nation. And what we've discovered, it's been alarming. My friends, our election process is vulnerable from beginning to end. Our country is at risk. And now, due to the instability caused by the global pandemic and violent mobs ransacking our cities, where that puts us is with lots of Americans hurting, unable to go to work, unable to open their businesses, unable, in some cases, even to put food on the table for their families. There are dangerous powers at play, and they are seeking to take advantage of this chaos, to further divide and ultimately to conquer our nation from within. Those that despise, that hate our traditions, our freedoms, well, they're going to use this election in any way that they can to accomplish their goal. And so at this critical moment in time, we cannot give in. Our time for choosing must remain in our hands. In the summer of 1776, the Declaration of Independence established a framework to provide unalienable rights for all men and women. Among them, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But it hadn't always been easy. During the first part of this country's history, the right to vote was not shared by all people. In fact, it wasn't until 1965 that everyone, all men, all women, all races, creeds, everyone could vote. Finally, all citizens have an equal voice and say in the choices that impact us today. Americans, united. So why do we feel so divided now? Well, enter COVID-19, a virus that would go on to become a global pandemic, compliments of China, a communist country. This invisible enemy sparked waves of fear. It bound us to our homes. It glued us to our televisions, and it separated us from our loved ones. It conditioned our society to accept that constant crisis was just our new normal. This exposed an opportunity for revolutionary Marxists to take advantage and take to the main stage. Marxism, what does that mean? Karl Marx authored the Communist Manifesto, and that document is the basis for communism and the deaths of over 100 million people. Marx's manifesto depicts a utopia, a picture of a so-called ideal society. But according to Marx, communism can only be obtained through a series of events that includes erasing history and the forcible overthrow of foundational institutions like family, education, and religion. Any of this sound familiar? Because this is how it starts. What we are witnessing is part of a coordinated plan to take down our country, one pillar at a time. But this doesn't happen all at once. For decades, followers like Castro, Pol Pot, Lenin, Guevara, Mao, they all used this Marxist plan to dismantle their own governments and then to divide and kill their own people. The manifesto Marx composed serves as a bit of a playbook, one that lays out the steps necessary to undermine and then overthrow freedom. And when you look at the roster of those who have followed this philosophy, the results are terrifying. Cambodian leaders killed a quarter of their population in 4 years. In Russia, millions were imprisoned or sent to forced labor camps. And just this year in Hong Kong, Communist China seized control and canceled their election. Think this can't happen here? It can. In fact, I believe it's already begun, because one of the key steps is to destroy individual liberty, to take away the freedom to choose. And isn't it true that on a daily basis, we see reports of voting safeguards being removed in cities and states across our country in an attempt to separate us, to separate the citizens from the power of their vote? Unlike others around the world, as Americans, we can use our voice to determine our own fate through the right to vote by electing representatives who govern us all. But listen to me carefully. From what I've seen, from what I know, from what history tells us, the Marxist playbook is not about winning an election. It is about ending them all together. And that is why we see this push to universal mail ballots and this avalanche of lawsuits for the removal of voter ID, signature verification standards, and the expansion of vote harvesting. This is engineered chaos. And the outcome is that we are not going to know who our president is on November 3rd. Our country is going to still be buried under a mountain of mail ballots that states and counties cannot handle. And the longer it goes, the more lawsuits there will be. Remember Bush v. Gore? Imagine that times 50. All of this could well extend to a point where we reach a constitutional crisis in around mid-January. So while the courts attempt to fight it out, control over the government goes to the second in line, the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi. Think about that. That is just one of the reasons why this election is the most important of our lifetime, and why some will stop at nothing to exploit it and seize control of our country. And what do you think they're going to do with that power? Well, when we come back, I'll share more examples of the evidence we've acquired and the facts to support my concerns for us all.
Right now is a dangerous moment in our history, one that we have not seen before. In just 7 months, our country has shifted from stability and prosperity to total chaos. The future for Americans that was growing brighter and brighter has now quickly fallen into conflict and fear. Disturbing forces are driving this mayhem to intentionally disrupt, divide, and distract us all. There are enemies of our freedom, and their goal is clear: break us down, erase our history, destroy our religious freedom, spread hate for our country from within, take over our communities, our businesses, our lives. They hate America and everything you stand for, and will use our coming election to grasp their own power by throwing question and doubt on the integrity, validity, and credibility of your vote through manipulation and fraud. As patriots of this great country, we can no longer stand by and let them cripple our country, silence our voices, and further devastate our democracy like other countries around the world.
Communism always cover itself under the cloak of socialism.
When you don't have voter integrity, like in Venezuela, the political party that takes advantage of it will ensure a victory.
Your time to act is right now. True the Vote needs your help to ensure the strength, stability, and safety of our country by protecting our election process. Go to truethevote2020.org right now to support our cause and help protect your voice at the polls this November.
Your contribution to True the Vote will help ensure your voting process is protected and that your ballot is secure. Please help us maintain election integrity and keep your voice heard.
True the Vote is the country's largest voters' rights organization and is well known for their ability to lead unified, nationwide plans that protect election integrity. They recruit, train, and mobilize election workers to defend the veracity of the election process and deter election fraud.
I really don't trust our election process this year.
The question that I have is there going to be voter fraud involved?
Someone will want to steal the election because they will want to have full power and take control.
There's always been corruption in politics, as far as the voting goes.
I currently don't trust the news right now. I feel I need to seek my own knowledge.
Help your fellow patriots by going to truethevote2020.org to support their work right now.